Good morning, everybody. This is Dan Campbell with Texas Open Door Realty, and I have my Boston Terrier, Marion, here from Marion Says. I encourage you to check out Marion's Facebook site because she goes around to some of the houses that we list and talks about how wonderful they are. Today, Marion and I are going to make peanut brittle. So many of you have requested that, so we're excited to do that for you today. Good morning, everybody. It's Dan Campbell from Texas Open Door Realty, and I'm super excited today because I'm going to fulfill a promise that I've made to many of you over the years, and that is to teach you how to make my famous family peanut brittle that came from my grandparents when they had a candy factory in Amarillo, Texas. This stuff is so good. I just got this from one of my friends. He wrote after he tasted some of this season's peanut brittle. This is corrupting, addicting, compelling, alluring, friggin' brittle. I will never be the same. Taste buds become so pleasurable. Craving becomes so intense. There is no recovery. Secret concoction by a friend of mine. If I reveal his name, a riot will ensue in his neighborhood, and grown men will do despicable things just for one divine, rapturous morsel of this sweet, irresistible, crunchy, decadent creation. So now, before we start the cooking, I want to run through the process to how we get to the cooking. We start with a stew pot. Approximately, it's a medium-sized stew pot. It doesn't really matter what your pan is, but this one is an aluminum pan that's relatively thick. It also makes it lighter. That's important as well because whatever pot you use, you have to be able to hold it with one hand while you pour out the peanut brittle when the time comes. So far what I have in this aluminum pot is 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 cups of water, and we're going to add in 2/3 cup of light corn syrup. It doesn't matter what the brand, anything will do. So once we get this in, then we're going to carry the pot over to the stove. We're going to put it on the stove on high, and by the way, it doesn't matter what your stove is. It doesn't matter if it's gas or electric. You'll just have to adjust the temperatures and the time, or not the temperature of the peanut brittle, but the times of the cooking based on the type of stove that you have. So I'm going to heat this on high. I have a large gas burner in the middle, which tends to make it cooler in the middle of this pot. So you'll see that I'll be moving the peanut brittle to the middle of the pot from time to time. So you just have to make adjustments based on your stove. I'm going to heat this at high until it begins to boil and the sugar dissolves. That temperature will be approximately 215 degrees on the candy thermometer that I'm going to put into the pot here in just a moment. And then once that begins to boil at about 215, I'm going to put in 2.5 cups of raw Spanish peanuts. Make sure your peanuts are raw. They have to be raw in order for this to work right. Then I'm going to heat that for another minute or so until this hits about 225 degrees. Then I'm going to take my temperature from high down to 75%. And I'm going to cook this for approximately between 10 and 14 minutes. It just depends on different conditions. Once the temperature of the thermometer reaches 320 degrees, that is the magic time that says turn off the heat. And I'll turn off the heat and I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons plus 1 pinch of fresh baking soda along with 1 teaspoon of salt that I have mixed up and set aside for when the peanut brittle hits 320. Then I'm going to put on some very as thick of oven mitt as you can possibly stand and be able to hold the pot without your grip being too weak. And notice I have a grill mitt and an extra padding because this pot gets so hot. I'm going to take this pot after I've mixed it up, and you'll see how that works in a minute. I'm going to pour out this peanut brittle onto this surface, which is foil that has been put on the countertop, along with Crisco that I put on top of the foil, and then a liberal coating of just plain sugar. So we'll put that on, and once I get it put onto the surface, then I'm going to take this pan and put it in the sink so it can be, I'll put water on it so it can be getting ready for the next batch. Then I take 2 knives that have Crisco on them, and I'm going to spread out the peanut brittle as thin as I can get it. And that's one of the secrets. Many people just pour their peanut brittle out and let it stay thick, but we want this to be thin. That's what makes it a lot easier to eat and a lot more delectable. All right, are you ready? Let's get going. Okay, we've moved to the stove now, and I've got the sugar and the water and the corn syrup heating. You'll notice that my thermometer is actually hit about 220, which between 215 and 220 is fine. I'm going to put in 2.5 cups of peanuts. I'm going to stir them in briefly. Then when that hits about 225, I'll turn the heat down to 75%. Over here, you'll notice that I have my iPad set up. This is what I use for my timer. I put my iPad on, where it doesn't ever, the screen never goes dead. And so that's going to be my timer that I'll use to just kind of jog my memory of where we're at in the process. So this usually takes about a minute for this to hit where these peanuts are boiling pretty well. And we'll turn the heat down to 75%. Okay, this is boiling pretty good now. So I'm going to turn the heat down to 75%, and we're going to let it cook now for about 10 to 14 minutes until it hits 320. While it's cooking, every minute or two, I'm going to make sure. Remember, I talked about how this particular stove makes there's a gap in the middle where the heat doesn't hit it. So you'll see it's boiling on the outside of the pan, but not on the inside. So I just want to rotate those peanuts away from the center so that they can cook more uniformly. Again, I do that every minute or two. I'll move those to the center. Okay, we're getting close. It's 11 minutes on my timer, and you can see that this is starting to turn a golden color. And my temperature right now is about 290. So within like 30 seconds, it's going to jump up to 320. And you have to be ready to rock and roll when it hits 320. Turning off the heat and getting the soda ready to be mixed in. So we're at 300 now. Again, I'm just keeping it away from the sides a little bit. .305. See, so the secret to this, to great peanut brittle, is you want to get this as close to burned as possible without burning it, and that's tricky. So those of you that like to experiment, you can obviously take it up higher above 320 if you want, once you get some experience to see how close to burn you can get it. And many people like burned peanut brittle. I never go through a year without burning at least one batch because until this year I never used a thermometer. Okay, we're at 310. Grab this real quick. Put my thermometer on. And we're getting close. That's right at 320. You can see what it looks like right when it hits 320. You'll see how golden it is. And there we go. So I'm going to mix this in as quickly as I can. I get my mitt ready, and I'm going over to dump it out. I put it in little pads, little piles. So that I can spread it thin. And I take my pan into my sink where I have a pan here that's full of water. So that can be getting ready for the next batch. Then I grab my knives and I'm going to spread it out so that it'll be nice and thin. The thinner the better. And then once I get this done, once I get it stretched a little bit, stretch it out, pull it a little bit, then all you have to do is wait for it to cool off. You can break it up. I usually put it on some foil on my kitchen table and let it sit till it gets completely cool before I bag it. And then that's it. We're ready to go. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll put the complete directions on the video as well. Okay, this has been sitting now for about 5 minutes, and so it has gotten hard enough to taste test, and I can tell by looking at it that this batch came out good. But let's go ahead and give it a try, shall we? Oh yeah. Oh man. Oh baby. This stuff really is addictive, just like my friend said. So if you have trouble or you need some special directions, special questions about your stove or your pot or whatever, feel free to contact me. That is my friends and clients. I'll be happy to try and help guide you through that. So thanks for tuning in.